7, 6. Hello everybody, it's Tuesday. It's October 9th, 2012, and it's time for some Newbie Tuesday, where we are optimizing our build orders in week number 2, dedicated to what race? Oh wait, I had a Zerg shirt on earlier today. I guess I changed. It's now a Pokemon zombie shirt. But we're still gonna be optimizing Zerg. Yeah! Alright, cool. It's also very cold in my house today, and I have no idea why, because I live in Los Angeles, where it's always amazing weather. For those of you new to the show, hello, welcome. It's so wonderful to have you. For you fine old school folks who've been around and seen things day 9 and not day 9 appear here on the show, welcome back as well. So good to have you. I have come equipped with an excessively large cup of water. This will help keep my throat appropriately lubricated for this here show. So what we're going to go ahead and do is talk about the topic of the day, optimization. Last week we introduced this notion of optimizing a build. In short, the whole notion of optimization returns to get more stuff faster. So a very simple example would be if you are doing a marine tank build that gets you 20 marines and 3 tanks at the 12-minute mark, you can optimize it to, say, get 20 marines and 3 tanks at the 10-minute mark. Or maybe 40 marines and 5 tanks at the 12-minute mark. Better, faster, however you want to go about it is totally a-okay, fine. So we're going to be doing it for the poor race that always feels as though it's robbed. No strategy ideas apply to me. I'm Zerg! Is what they say. Not because they're puking, but because they're generating creep. With the Zerg race, you have larva as your fundamental production mechanic. You don't have the usual barracks or gateway structure, which makes things very, very unusual. For instance, if you do something like, let's say you want to go marine tank. If you want more tanks, you have to literally build more factories. But if you suddenly want to switch from roach to mutalisk, you literally can make 50 mutalisks all at once. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So these kind of tech transitions make Zerg feel different, especially in terms of the larva injects coming off in sets of 4. But don't worry, we're going to handle all of that as we learn how to optimize builds in this month of Optober. Before we get started, let's go ahead and do some brief story time. I woke up very early this morning at 6:30 a.m. Oh, who does that? I had a shoot I had to do for a particular project. As in a film shoot, not a gun shoot. I'm not that manly. I'm wearing a bright purple Twitch TV shirt streaming on Twitch TV. Fucking manly? Manly. But not quite manly enough to shoot guns. It was a film shoot where I got up early, I had to take my friend to the airport, and then I had to drive all the way over to Rancho frickin' Cucamonga, wherever the hell they live. I don't even know where that is, but it's someplace that was nearby my old college at Harvey Mudd. So, either way, I'm pretty sure it's out in Eastern California. In this particular notion, continuing onward, I was exhausted. I showed up early, I got myself an omelet, I was feeling amazing. I was having some coffee, I was feeling even more amazing. And then I showed up and realized I had not put on any deodorant. Now, I'm a very hygienic man. I shower and I scrub. I actually have this body wash. It smells amazing. When most people smell me in close proximity, they're like, damn, day 9. It's really good. So I didn't smell, but I was doing something I do very much on the daily. I was sweating. And in fact, it was very hot in the particular area because, I don't know if you know this, but lights on a set are freaking hot. So I was just like, and it was like, it was actually dripping down to here. It was like all the way down. It was approaching my hips, man. And I actually had to change shirts twice. What? So although that was slightly embarrassing, I felt very successful having returned back home, the longest journey ever, a couple of miles, but in LA traffic, that translates to a couple of hours, where I successfully paid rent. So at least I did one thing today. Except I will be charged $25. How wonderful. My room is continuing to get hotter and hotter as time continues, just simply due to the fact that these freaking lights are freaking hot. Brick. The chat's erupting about the shirt. What? And about rent. Look, it's so great. There's no conversation about StarCraft 2. It's shirts and rents. How do you forget deodorant but bring extra shirts? Well, as many of you know, I'm constantly driving up to San Francisco because I have a BFF who lives there. So I actually have some clean clothes in the back of my car. Got to make sure I keep those there because I'm going to the MFing Grand Prix for Return to Ravnica Magic the Gathering in San Jose this weekend. But I had to use those shirts on the shoot, so I got to put some more in there. Let's go ahead and talk about Optober. In the early daily that we did last week, we actually did Newbie Tuesday on Wednesday, but no big deal, we introduced the notion of the refinement process. How do we refine our builds more and more and more until they're absolutely perfect? Here is the basic structure that we began with. At the start of your optimization process, you come up with an idea for a build. Perhaps you're stealing it from another person. Perhaps you are just coming up with it yourself. Maybe you watched the GSL. Whatever it is, come up with an idea and wing it a couple times. This will give you a feel for it. We did this idea of recording benchmarks, which actually should be here. Somewhere. No, where is it? All right, there it is. Yeah, I loves it. There it is. We have this idea of time, description, and numbers. Something simple like 5 minutes, took third base, 2 queens, 22 drones. This is what we call recording benchmarks. This gives us a sense that if we work really, really hard on our build, that we can come back and say things like, took third base, 2 queens, 25 drones. And we can go, improved. We can say these sorts of things. So we have our benchmarking sheet here that we can record as we examine Archon in just a moment. But this is the start. This gives us a platform, a springboard where we can step forward and say, ha-ha, time to get better. And the way we do it is we do this loop, where we first refine our buildings a little bit, and second, we refine what we're doing with our units a little bit. Fantastic. Now, with this building set, first we created this really cool acronym, ORCA! Order, refine, compare, add. First we develop an order for our buildings. I'm going to go ahead and do this for Zerg right now because the name of this notepad file is the refinement process Zerg. We can do things like, say, hatch plus pool plus gas. And then we can say something like Baneling Nest plus layer. And then we can say Evo Chamber, third hatch. This is what I mean by an ordering. Nothing specific, just sets of buildings in an order. If you're building your layer and taking your third hatch, you say it's a little bit out of order. Yeah, for example, actually I'm going to remove this because it looks like it's an unhappy face. For example, blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. In the refinement process, this is where we start to get smoother and faster with whatever we're doing. This is where we start to say things like 15 hatch, 16 pool, 17 gas. So I'll even label this as specifics. This is where we start to decide, well, do we want this or do we want to do that? Or do we want to do this? That's the same thing. This, or maybe we want to do something like 22 gas. It's in this area where we play a good amount and start to find out truly when we can afford stuff or when issues arise. It's time to crack my neck. Excellent. That felt fantastic. So to continue to review, and we sort of dot along. Compare, how are we doing? This is when you check against your benchmarks. This is something I was saying earlier. For instance, if you have something like take your third base and you have 2 queens and 22 drones, It's a problem if you look at your notes again and you have something like 1 queen and 18 drones. Bad. More commonly, though, it'll be late game things, like 13 minutes, where it's like built to evolution chambers, and then when you come, I'm going to put built to evo chambers, so that way my tabs still work. And then you look and you might have something like 50 drones, and then when you do some tests, you find out that, wow, I built 2 evo chambers, and I actually had 45 drones this time. Bad. Or, of course, if you have 55 drones, you can say, good, good. Go Dodd is what you can say. So that's what this whole recording benchmarks is. And one of the most important steps is that as you start to get better and better and better and better, you can add additional things. Let's say you optimize your build and wound up with, I don't know, 150 extra minerals and 100 extra gas. Well, that is about the cost of an upgrade. Mister. So that is the Orca process that we want to emphasize so much. We just get basic orders. We get better and better over time in this. Whoa! We get better and better over time in this refinement phase. We make sure that we are indeed getting better, and then we try to improve what we have. Units work a little bit the opposite. We are trying to go for longer term play. We're trying to go for timing attacks later in the game. So what do? We want to make sure that we have enough defense, first of all, but we want to try to cut our units, save some money, and Orca in the exact same way. Hey, I'm going to go Mutiling, and then I'm going to go Roach Infester, and then Broodlord Infester. Cool, that's an ordering. Can we refine that? Can we say that we're going to get exactly this many lings or exactly this many mutalisks? Are we screwing up our builds? Compare it all, and hey, if we saved money, add. But I honestly think that this is the most important aspect of the whole notion of cutting units out. So excellent. What are we going to do right now? We're going to watch a game from our friend Archon, who's a Zerg player who has a pretty reasonable style of play. Archon was actually, I believe, oh crap, I can't remember. It was either Diamond or Platinum, but took a long break, over a year, and came back, and now he's Gold. He has some old builds floating around in his head, but his mechanics, he said, were a little rusty, so he's trying to get back into the swing of things. So we're going to take Archon's build and optimize it. Ooh. Let me just give a special tribute to the best optimizer of all time. The most sacred Was that helicopter as loud for you as it was for me? I feel like it was about to land on the house. Is it the SWAT team that's going to come in? Day 9, you're on point. Lead us through. And I'm like, just Orca SWAT team. And they're like, oh, brilliant. But they have to be careful when they do this because they have night vision sniper face goggles. Sniper face goggles. They're really hot on the Black Ops market. Cracking myself a little bit. There we go. What on earth were we talking about? What the hell were we talking about? Ah, yes. Ode to the best optimizer of all time. Who is it? MacGyver. Who optimizes better than frickin' MacGyver? Come on. I have to kill these terrorists. All I have is toothpicks and an eraser. Time to build a Molotov cocktail. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and step in to this match. And we're going to do our usual thing. Here's my Newbie tib de sheet. Cool, I'm getting ready to record benchmarks. Archon has gone through the process of coming up with an idea, winging it a little bit at a sort of reasonable gold level of play, and we're going to do the effort of recording benchmarks so that way we can step in through this. Allow me to begin by saying some of the most important things you'll ever know about Zerg optimization. People want to say things like, it's so different. It feels, because it's larva and it feels terrible. You can't do other things. Here's the truth. If you are Terran or Protoss and you are missing workers, you have idle barracks because you're missing units, idle tanks because you're missing units, people would label that as quite bad. Make sure you're building out of your command center first before you go spend your money on something else. Same thing with Zerg. Spend the larva first. And I'll do an extreme example to really demonstrate what I'm talking about. Let's say that you're about to have 100 minerals as Terran. You're at 80. And you're thinking, I could probably save up and build an engineering bay. Ugh. But then you look at your command centers, and the 2 SCVs are about to finish. You better wait until the SCVs finish, then you'll probably be a little over 100. SS, spend the 2 SCVs money, plummet back down to 0. You couldn't actually afford that engineering bay. Let's talk late game for Terran. You have 8 barracks with reactors, which means you can build Marines 16 at a time. Your money's at 500, 600, 700. You might think, oh, I'll build a command center because look at that money. Don't want to do that because you need to hit 800 and then spend all 800 of it building those Marines and be back down to 0 again. It's the exact same thing with Zerg. Spend the larva before you do anything. Before you do anything, check up on how long you are till your larva pops off. We'll see more of that when I end up doing the some of the playthroughs. But for now, let's go ahead and be Archon. Let's record some of his benchmarks, and I'll just explain to you straight up what Archon is going to be doing. Archon is going for a hatch first. He's going to be going for a kind of Ling Muta play at the start of the game, using some Banelings for defense. And then he's going to be transitioning into Roach Infester, is what he said. And following the Roach Infester, he's going to tech up to Hive and be having Broodlord Infester. Remember, when we optimize, we're not asking if we're doing the correct thing or if we're playing perfectly. We're just trying to make it as great as possible. And I swear to God, you can do the dumbest, most awful stuff, and if you are really well optimized, you can get up to probably Masters, but at the very least, Diamond. I remember I redid this test not long ago where I literally only let myself build 2 units, Stalkers and Colossus. Those were the only 2 units I would let myself build as Protoss, because it's, again, reasonably functional against all 3 races. Oh, and Observers. Forgive me. Forgive me. With those 2 units, Masters League very quickly. Like 30 to 35 games, easy, straightforward. Optimization is really, really critical and super key to get up in dim ranks. People, well, of course you did well with Stalkers and Colossus. It's frickin' Stalkers and Colossus, Sean. So I decided I want to get better at fist fighting. So I brought a gun. I'm pretty good at fist fighting. So, something that I don't ordinarily do, we see Archon doing things like, you know, he's letting his money get quite high, and then he's building the spawning pool. I think it goes without saying that, for instance, when he is up at 285, he's a little behind, and he should focus on building this. I generally don't write these sorts of timings down, but I will in this one particular circumstance. So I will write 315. Builds pool. I guess it's more like 310. Pool start. And I can just get a sense of my numbers. 3 larva, 15 drones, 2 overlords. 3 larva, 15 drones, 2 overlords. I will be recording larva. Great. Fantastissimo. Alright, cool. Now, we could ask ourselves things like, whoa, what about this Overlord? Is he getting his Overlord? Too early, too late? We're not worried that much about that. We're going to say gas starts, what, at 355? Gas start. A lot of times, I would want to record this, but I'm trying to get bigger moments over time. With Zerg, actually, with the other races in optimization, there are big moments that happen. Something like, when does my factory finish? When do I start barracks 3 and 4? When do I build a starport? There are big junctures where notable buildings go down. With Zerg, we want to do more arbitrary timings. How are we doing at 6 minutes? How are we doing at 8 minutes? Much more important with Zerg, because remember, larva replaces a lot of what your buildings are up to with the other 2 races. So we see Archon building his 2 queens. He starts a spine right off the bat. And I'll tell you bluntly, I don't know why I use the word bluntly. It's not like this is going to be offensive. There's no tactful way to say he's going to be going drone, ling speed, queen. And I mean to be blunt, but I'm going to be blunt. This is what he's doing. Really, really straight frickin' forward. Nothing too notable going on. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to get to 6 minutes and kapow, we're going to stop. It pleases me deeply that I hit P once and pause it exactly at 6 minutes. Yeah. So I'm just going to record myself 6 minutes. Random time. Random moment. Nothing notable occurred right now. Looks like I have 4 larvae, 26 drones. I'll go ahead and, nah, I'm going to spell them all the way out. 3 lings, 5 ofs, 2 queens. Technically, we don't need to record these overlord numbers. It's not ultra super critical that we know exactly how many he has. But why not, right? Doesn't seem like a big deal. It's not going to hurt us. So we want to continue to record some of these numbers. I'm going to do it a little bit fast motion-y. He does have 2 spine crawlers out. Let's speed it up a pinch. Okay, when did the layer end up starting? 6:55. 6:55, layer start. And again, oh, layer bling starts. And it looks like our Zergling speed is nearly done. I do occasionally include some upgrades in this list as well. 2 larvae, 31 drones, 3 lings, 7 overlords, 2 queens. We're getting our benchmarks thus far. More queens are coming down. Hatch an Evo chamber at 8. 8 minutes, hatch, Evo. And I will continue to record as much as I can. 8 larvae, 39 drones, 3 lings, 8 overlord, 3 queens. What you're starting to notice, I'm sure I'm even see people typing in the chat, this larva number is kind of getting higher over time. I'll speed things along a little bit. And again, I want to begin recording some random times. I'm going to record a random time at 10 minutes. Why is that? I want to have some timings just listed out for myself. So that way I can have some really easy comparisons. Bink. Now, I will pause after this thing. Here we go. Alright. A random moment. We have 9 larvae and 37 drones, 25 lings, 8 overlords. In Overseer, I don't really care that much about that. I'm never going to be thinking, oh my god, I'm building too many Overseers. What Zerg is that? TLO? Totally. That guy built way too many Overseers. It's very easy at this point in time to go, oh my gosh, the money's high. This is what I would describe as a signal that something's going wrong with optimization. But high money doesn't mean that you are playing straight poorly. Almost always you'll hear me say, oh, the money's high, keep the money low, keep the money low, keep the money low. What I'm really emphasizing is make sure the build is better optimized next time so the money doesn't get that high. 1,000 in the bank is not what's significant. What is significant is this page right here. This is the significant stuff. So you don't want to say things like, in your optimization process, oh, I have a lot of money. Try to translate that into, ooh, I need to get this faster. That's what this money means. This means opportunities to be playing faster. Now, at this point, I can begin to add on some other things, like I can throw down some buildings. We did this with Terran as well. 2 Evo Chamber, Spire, Bane Nest. Obviously, we have a pool. Don't need to record too much else. And this is it. I suppose we should also list 3 hatch. Yep. We can do this sort of thing. So I'm going to speed this along, and I'm going to start getting some bigger times. At around 10 minutes, 10-ish, like I'm going to say 10, 10, plus 1 start. You don't absolutely need to record everything, and with Zerg, I tend to be a little bit more on the skipping side of these numbers. I like to have intervals of 2 minutes early on, and then intervals of like 4 minutes early on. So I'm going to speed right ahead. I will say something like, damn, I forgot the sound. I will say something like, oh, looks like hatch, 11-minute, 3rd base start. I'm going to skip this. It's not that essential. I'm really looking for that 14-minute timing. We're doing some harassment. I don't care so much. I really want to get to that 14-minute mark, and boink. 14-minute random moment. And you're seeing that we're getting a ton of information. It's not just, oh my god, he's not building that many drones. It's drone production seemed to stop at 8 minutes and didn't really grow very much after that point in time. The biggest and most important number is the drone count, but we're not going to be too concerned about some of the other numbers until we are really, really focusing on optimizing. So that's one thing that I will note. Feel free to be a little bit more vague in some of these later ones, but I will go ahead and record the 3 Mutalisks there. 3 Mutas, 5 Banes. I'm not as concerned with recording queens. Why? Because I'm just not going to be building any more queens for the rest of the game. It's not useful data. Oh, and also the Infestation Pit and Roach Warren were started around 14. So I will include Roach, Infestor, Pit. I'm speeding things right along. There were some notable hits to our economy that occurred here. I will continue to note that there's this somewhat problematic thing that many people brought up last week in analysis that we'll briefly address now. Super, super easy to see interaction happen and say, but dude, how do I know if my build's getting better? If this guy comes in and kills off 8 of my drones, hell, like right now, I've lost 8 workers. And now I'm at 51 drones. I mean, you can't possibly say that this number is accurate. At 1530, if I put 51 drones, it looks like I'm not producing any drones. That's unfair. Make sure that you take these sorts of things into account and just adjust in the intuitive way. So for instance, I'm going to pause here at 1530, and what I'm going to say is at 1530, which is a random moment in time, I had 7 larvae, which is, again, giving me an indication that I'm not macroing so well. How many drones? Well, there's 51 here, and 8 were killed. So that's 59 drones. Cool. I can now benchmark against here. The rest of the units I don't care that much about, but if I play another game and I get to 1530 and have 65 drones, I've clearly improved. Super clearly. We see Archon barely keep himself alive, and I'm going to skip ahead. Another significant thing to note is when these timings of upgrades finish. This is another really important late game timing. I'm going to back up because, yeah, there it is. At 16:30 plus 1 finished. 16:30 plus 1 attack finishes. Gonna skip this moment. And then when does this finish? 17 minutes. And I will go ahead and do yet another record. 47 workers with 12 killed off. Exact same as before. 11 larvae, 59 drones. So there's not that much more left of the game. What we're going to see Archon do is he's going to counterattack and essentially get himself a win. So we have ourselves a reasonable structure to begin stepping forward in. When we come back, I'm actually going to step into the role of Zerg. I'm going to play the game, and we're going to start optimizing this build to be the greatest gamers of all time. Can seem tricky with Zerg, but I assure you, it's very straightforward. Just make sure you keep spending those larvae and use dat orca method. See you in 2 minutes. 2 minutes.